Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the BROGAN HILLMAN Show. Thank you for joining me for episode 11 of the BROGAN HILLMAN Show. And we have a good one. We're going to start off with Chant Talk, go over everything that's been happening in the Chanticleer's world of sports. Then we're going to transition it over to the NFL weekly recap, week 10, and then it gets very interesting at the end. You're going to want to stay tuned. Skip to the time codes. All time codes are on the screen here, and you can see them on the bottom bar for YouTube. But at the very end, we have the official BROGAN HILLMAN college football playoff rankings. A very controversial topic. A lot of ways things could go. A lot of different things could happen. A lot of different scenarios. There's still 3 weeks left of the season before we get into conference championships. And then it's time to roll with this new 12-team format. So skip to the end if you want to see the college football playoff rankings. I know that's why the majority of you guys are here. But without further ado, let's get into Chant Talk. Very, very interesting stuff happened in the world of Chanticleer sports, and a lot happened in the world of Chanticleer sports. I mean, if you know, it was Justin Gray's debut. Coach Justin Gray on Monday, just the other week against Western Michigan. They got the dub 60-56 in a game they looked like they controlled very, very early. I mean, they looked very good coming out the rip. He had them boys rolling. They were up 33-22 at one point, started off the game on like a crazy run. For Coach Gray to be able to come out here in his very first game as Chanticleer and catch a dub, I mean, that's just an amazing feat. That's not a feat that you see very, very often out of first-year head coaches just come out very first game and get a dub regardless. They looked very, very good, too. It's not very often you see a team look that polished in their first game. Not a lot of chemistry. A lot of these guys are transfers, everything, and they look like a unit. I mean, it showed down the stretch that they weren't really enjoined with each other. They weren't really connected. They didn't have that sense of chemistry that a lot of these teams have in the nation, but they still managed to get the dub. And then they played ECU this past Saturday, and they lost 63-59 in another close game. So this team has come out and put up near identical points in both games. One was enough to get it done. One was not enough to get it done. ECU, just a tough opponent in that AAC. A very respectable competitor in all sports. ECU it's a very nice athletic school. To be able to come out there and only lose to that type of team by 4 points, that's not something to hang your head low on. And then we flip over to women's basketball. They're 2-0. They have big victories, a comeback victory over Central Michigan in their season opener, and then a huge win going to Charleston Southern and knocking them off by over 40 points, 97-53. To go out there and put up 97 points and only hold them to 53, they dominated. I mean, that's all there is to it. They dominated on all fronts. They just ran that game. They looked very, very good. And they're starting off 2-0. This was a women's team that was very, very hot about a year or two ago. There were talks about them getting ranked in that women's poll and really just moving, see what they could do. They're coming out here this season starting off undefeated so far, 2-0, in two very respectable victory fashions. One obviously in a huge margin of victory, and then the other one in a comeback fashion, able to get it done, showing resiliency and perseverance. So these basketball programs are looking very, very good to start off the season. Obviously, it's very early. We're going to see how they continue to roll down the stretch. But for basketball, it was a very solid 2 weeks for Coastal Carolina. And then you want to talk about a very solid stretch. Sports Center live on campus for football. I was lucky enough to go. I was lucky enough to meet Josh Norman, take a picture with him. If you guys have seen that post on Coastal Football, that is me. It is awesome. Got to see Josh Norman. Matt Berry was there as well. Matt Berry liked my tweet. I dapped him up as he walked by. I did talk to Coach Gray. This was after his debut, so I talked to him about the game. Got really picked his mind, see how everything's going. He is the guy. If you guys don't remember, we interviewed him over the summer. He is just an awesome, awesome guy. Amazing Christian guy. And he just goes out there. He has that basketball program looking good like we were just discussing. So we're talking about his debut opener. Said he felt good. Said it's that time. He's ready to get those boys rolling. And speaking of rolling, Coastal Football, Sports Center live on campus for a reason. This is an anticipated rivalry matchup. The first time under Tim Beck, they are playing App State at home. And they went out and they dominated off the rip. End of the first quarter, they're up 17-3. Only took it like 17-10 in the halftime. Really let App State hang in there when they should have just killed them out for the count. But the first half, I mean, they just completely dominated. In their whole game, that Black Swarm dominated. That defense looks so resilient, so strong, so tough. Had a pick six to start off the second half. I mean, and then you just come out here, you get a forced fumble as well. They just made Joey Aguilar have no time in the pocket. Really, really just threw him off. He did not have a lot of passing yards at all. He was not like mobile as he used to be. This is a quarterback that likes to roll out. He likes to be mobile in the pocket, likes to take his reads, likes to do all this. He had no time to do any of that. He could not do any of that against Coastal Carolina. So very, very strong performance from the Chanticleers, bouncing back off a 3-game lose streak. And that's a 3-game win streak against App State in itself, your conference rival since you moved up to FBS. And you have never owned the series like you do right now. This is the first time they beat them 3 times in a row. This is the first time under Tim Beck they beat them at home. So you know the field got rushed. There was posts about it all over Instagram. It was awesome. Having SportsCenter on campus just helped contribute to the hype that much more. Coastal Carolina went out and made a statement victory inside the Sun Belt. Now, they're not going to make any noise in terms of Sun Belt Conference Championship or anything like this, but to be able to go and topple App State, who granted has been struggling a little bit this season, but you still knock off your rivals 3 years in a row, that's a very impressive feat, and you're just happy you can get those wins. And just shout out to the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers football for being on SportsCenter Live, having Matt Berry here, Coach Dan Mullen here, Tim Beck chugging a beer on SportsCenter Live. I mean, does it get more Coastal Carolina than your head coach chugging a beer and then proceeding to go out and murder your rivals at home and rushing the field? No, that's the epitome of Coastal Carolina. Great job to the Chanticleers this last week. Chant Talk is a wrap. Shout out to every single program. They're absolutely killing it, and they are on the rise. And as always, it is Chant's up. Let's go. Transitioning now, segueing to the NFL. You had Coastal Carolina dominating against App State. Well, now we're transitioning to a different type of game, a thriller. To kick off NFL Week 10, we had probably the best game of the week, and that was the Ravens-Bengals, played on the same night as Coastal. This was simultaneous, so me, as an avid Coastal fan, lifelong diehard Coastal fan, you see this stuff right here, and then just a pure NFL lover, avid NFL fan in general, to have these 2 games on at the same time, I was going crazy. I was flipping through them all. I was going through it all. Jamar Chase, he was also going crazy. 264 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's a career high performance for Jamar Chase. He has not seen numbers like that before, and he went absolutely ballistic. And then you look on the other sideline, Lamar Jackson, 290 yards, 4 touchdowns. These guys were going insane. Joe Burrow obviously had an insane day too, giving the ball to Jamar Chase. So it's just like, either way, one of these teams had to lose this ball game, but it was one of those games where no one deserved to lose the ball game. If they would have played any different respected opponent that week, they would have both came out with W's. It just sucks for the Bengals in this case that they had to be playing the Ravens. They had to be playing Lamar Jackson, a guy that's about a 3-peat MVP maybe. It's just an insane performance by both teams. And it just, again, it sucks that someone has to lose that game. But they do. And for the Bengals, this drops them a little bit in the NFC North, that they're already in a tight race with the Ravens against, with the Steelers against. And it's just a very tough loss inside that division, especially one that's controversial. You know, the 2-point conversion. Do you kick the extra point? Do you take it to overtime? I personally think the 2-point conversion was the right call. It's way easier in hindsight to say, take your chances on the coin flip after seeing the 2-point was unsuccessful, but you got to think, Lamar Jackson, 294 touchdowns in regulation. If you flip that coin and give the ball to the Ravens, you screwed yourself without giving yourself a chance to win. Going for 2, the game is in your own hands. And that's the way you want to lose a football game. You want to lose a football game knowing you gave it everything you got and that game ran through you. If you give the ball up to Lamar Jackson, just let him go storm down the field and score, you're going to feel weird. You're going to feel terrible about that loss because you're going to know you didn't control your own destiny. You allowed yourself to give the ball back to the future 3-time NFL MVP in Lamar Jackson and let him do what he does best and come up clutch in these scenarios, win ball games, which he did anyway. But I believe Zach Taylor and the Bengals did the smart thing and went for 2 in that situation. Just couldn't pull it out. And Lamar Jackson and the Ravens got a big win inside the division and just in the AFC in general. looking to find that playoff spot and get back to where they were last year in the AFC Championship, and they look legit. Transitioning now to a completely different game. And I'm happy that we made Germany suffer through this. This wasn't an affair on U.S. soils. And that's the Panthers and the Giants. They took one for the team. Germany took one for the team here and just put on an absolute stinker. But Chuba Hubbard went for 153 and a touchdown. Tyrone Tracy went for 103 and a touchdown. The running backs were balling, though. The running backs had a great day. But America, just so glad to get them out of there. Just two teams that have been struggling. The Panthers find a way to win 2 straight. They are now 3-7, moving up the ranks a little bit. Go undefeated, win out, go 10-7, snag a wild card spot, win the Super Bowl. Is it going to happen? No. But the fact that the Panthers can win 2 straight shows you that anyone can win a football game. So shout out to the Panthers for getting it done. They got it done on Sunday, 9:30. I was not awake to watch that game. I was not waking up and ruining sleeping in to watch the Panthers-Giants. I would just check it on the real app after. And the Panthers pulled it out, 20-7. In overtime, that fumble was crazy. Tyrone Tracy had a great game. Just had to fumble, give the ball back. He knew they were tanking. I guarantee you Giants fans are a lot more happy with Tyrone Tracy than they were before going into the game, because now they're just helping that draft stock. Something I wish the Dolphins would have done tonight, but they just went out and beat the Rams. So that draft pick just got better, and I really don't want it to get better because our season's over. Tyreek Hill may disagree, but our season is over. Now moving on to the Bears. They looked awful, losing to the Patriots 19-3. Come on, Drake May, who is a stud, didn't even have that crazy of a game. He is a rookie, he's figuring things out, and I love Drake May. I think he's definitely one of the better quarterbacks in this whole draft class. He went for 164 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And he's been producing. I mean, he's been doing things. He looks way more sound than a lot of rookies. And now Caleb Williams on the other side of the ball, 120 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He just really couldn't even get that offense clicking. He didn't look like the sound leader that they want him to be in Chicago. And it's just very, very interesting. You got a situation going there. A team that looks so hot, so promising for a while, falls to 4-6. And Caleb Williams is now 0-2 versus fellow 2nd and 3rd overall pick in Jane Daniels. Off the Hail Mary, the Commander's Miracle. And now Drake May just in an absolute slugfest, 19-3. The Bears really got some more figuring out to do. And Matt Eberflus could see his seat getting a little hot there in Chicago. 3 years with nothing to show for it. And still tough sledding in Chicago after they thought they had something promising going there. But Drake May and the Patriots get a very respectable win against those Bears. The Niners. The Niners survive against the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers stayed in this game. They took a lead late, and we thought we were going to see the Buccaneers pull us one out. I thought the Buccaneers were going to pull us one out. Baker Mayfield didn't have too crazy of a day. Bucky Irving on the ground went for 73 yards and a touchdown. And I thought this was more of a must-win game for either of these teams. Both teams in the NFC that have dropped some games in previous weeks, and Brock Purdy knew the assignment, came out and threw for 353 yards and 2 touchdowns to get a close win for them in the NFC. And it was just a game that was back and forth there in Santa Clara, and they were able to pull it out. 23-20, very close, down to the wire game, and they just did what they needed to do, survive, to win the game, and ultimately keep chugging, trying to achieve a wild card spot. If they can't topple the Cardinals, who look hot right now, just destroyed the Jets, that's going to be an interesting race to watch, especially with the Rams losing today as well. The NFC West, I don't want to say it's wide open, but the Cardinals aren't even that insane. They're about 6-4, and they're sitting atop the NFC West right now. That could be a race that could go to any single team in that conference, in that division. There's still time to turn it around for any of those teams. So keep your eye on the NFC West. That could be very, very interesting. But a team that is not in a close race in their division, the Kansas City Chiefs. Are you serious? Just when you think Bo Nix just had a phenomenal game. Bo Nix played out of his mind against the 8-0, looks to be 8-1 Kansas City Chiefs, setting up for a 35-yard game-winning field goal. And they block it You cannot draw that up any better for the Kansas City Chiefs. They come out here, they play their voodoo magic is what everyone is claiming. Andy Reid's dark magic. Go and block the field goal, win the game somehow, and you just survive. You advance to 9-0. You're still undefeated. No one is yet to touch you. We all thought Bo Nix was about to be the one to do it. We thought Bo Nix won this ball game. He got him down in field goal range. All they had to do was kick the field goal, and it got blocked. Seeing the Chiefs win hurts me in any fashion. Seeing them win in that fashion just hurts the most. We were out golfing. I was golfing on Sunday on the course. I checked the Reel app, and it says a blocked 35-yarder after I watched the whole drive getting down, setting up to beat the Chiefs. We all thought they had done it. And then I just turned to Gray and said, they blocked the field goal. We couldn't believe it. It was insane. The Chiefs just advanced to 9-0 off such trickeration, off such witchcraft. And I'm just rambling. The Chiefs are 9-0, and they shouldn't be. They should be 8-1 right now, but they're still undefeated. Patrick Mahomes is hot mic in the ref. The Chiefs got something going there in Kansas City. They're looking to three-peat. They're looking very strong. Just when you think Patrick Mahomes is out with a knee injury for the rest of the season, he comes right back off the sideline last week, Monday Night Football, throws a touchdown, wins them the game. Then they come out here, they block a field goal, win the game. They just find ways to win, and it's insane. That's why they've won so many Super Bowls. That's why they're so good. They just find ways to win, and they advance to 9-0. Insane stuff. The Steelers and Commanders, another insane game. A lot of thrillers this week, a lot of great games, just so much good NFL stuff going on. The Steelers come out and they survive past the Commanders. Russell Wilson had a big part in this, 195 yards, not insane through the air, but 3 touchdowns to only 1 interception. He played a somewhat clean game. He was able to find a lot of guys, George Pickens in particular, who is an absolute dog. He's been a dog since Georgia. He continues to be a dog for the Steelers team, and he's making a clear case at being wide receiver 1. And then your brand new addition out of New York, Mike Williams, comes out and makes the game-winning catch. That's what you want to see out of that receiver room. They had a great game. Russell Wilson was dealing. He looked like a leader. He looked like his old self out there in Pittsburgh, and they just passed by. On the final drive of the game, Mike Williams, like 30-ish seconds left, a Commanders team that was 7-2. They were very, very hot. They were in the lead in the NFC East coming into this game, and after fell to 7-3. They're now 5th in the NFC. The Eagles, after destroying the Cowboys, come out here and take first place in the NFC East. But the Commanders are still very respectable, 7-3. They're sitting just fine. They'll bounce back. The Commanders will be all right. But the Steelers advanced to 7-2. They're looking more than all right. They're looking great. Mike Tomlin, we know he's a guy that just finds a way to win as well. Really never had I don't think he's ever had a losing season in Pittsburgh. He just finds ways to win. Even when they were just mid at best, they found a way to go 8-1, 9-1, just doing whatever they needed to do. Finding a way to make the playoffs year after year. And they're in a golden position, driver's seat to do it again this year and make the playoffs. 7-2, just like we mentioned. They're going to be just fine. They're pretty much locked up a playoff spot already if they don't lose out in 90 games. And they're just right where they need to be. Got a big, big win on Sunday. And they continue to push that momentum down the stretch and see what they can do. The Vikings. Speaking of seeing what you can do. What you need to do is play a better football game. You let the Mac Jones-led Jaguars, a team that's already struggling with their starting quarterback, hang in with you without their starting quarterback. Mac Jones comes in, scores their only touchdown of the game. You pass them. You survive 12-7 in a very sloppy game. Sam Darnold went for 241, which is very respectable through the air yards-wise, and 3 interceptions, which is not respectable yards-wise. We know there's a certain quarterback that went for more this week on prime time, but to throw for 3 interceptions, especially against that Jaguars unit that's been struggling, that is not very solid. That is not a good look. And a team that hasn't been the best down the stretch as of recent, they've dropped a few games. They played games a lot closer than they've needed to. it's a little concerning. They're still 7-2. They're second in the NFC North behind the Lions, who just continue to find a way to win. But they need to make some more statement games, some more promising wins, because right now they're not doing it in promising fashion. It's kind of ugly. It's kind of scary. They need to get it done. They need to find a way to just smooth over, get through these struggles, get through the hardships, get Justin Jefferson the ball, and you'll be all right. Mac Jones, 111 yards, not good. 2 interceptions, not good. But he had the touchdown on the ground with his legs. He got hyped up, and just for them to fall to 2-8. A very, very bad start for the Jaguars. Reminds them of 2020 all over again, and they just want to get this season over with, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them one bit. But a guy that's just getting his season started, Darren Rizzi. What a way to start your coaching tenure. Clogging the toilets in New Orleans. You go out before the game against the Falcons, a big NFC conference game, and you go out and clog the toilet. The NFC South, huge game. Bijan had a huge game. 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then you turn the script. Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Who's going to step up for Chris Olave being injured? It's Marquez Valdes-Scantling. 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. Derek Carr had a great game dishing Marquez Valdes-Scantling the ball, obviously. And this was a game that either team could have taken. Falcons had some opportunities. Younghoe Koo, a lot of missed kicks. And then ultimately the Saints and Darren Rizzi in his debut game as the interim head coach, after clogging the toilet, clogs Bijan Robinson's chances at winning this game, clogs the Falcons' chances at winning this game, and they get a big win after they're struggling. I mean, they started off 2-0, dropped 7 in a row to drop to 2-7, and Darren Rizzi gets them back to 3-7, gets them back in the win column for the first time since week 2 of the NFL season, after clogging the toilet, of course. And now the late window, a guy that definitely didn't clog the toilet coming out, or maybe he did and he's really good at keeping it under the radar. Justin Herbert. He exploded. He had a great game. 164 yards. Not crazy through the air at all, but he had a touchdown through the air. He had a touchdown on the ground, and he was making guys miss. A nasty juke move there in the third quarter. Don't know what he was on. He was looking like prime Saquon Barkley out there, just making guys miss, making them look stupid, and he had an amazing game. Across the sideline, Calvin Ridley also had an amazing game, 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. On my fantasy bench, still pulled out the dub this week, barely, won by like 4 points. My team's injured, my team's not good, It's been a long fantasy season, but we might be able to squeeze into the playoffs, make a run, who knows. Calvin Ridley might have to start him next week. Went for 2 touchdowns, 25 points on my bench, but the Chargers were able to pull this one out, 27-17, led by a big Justin Herbert performance, and now the Chargers are 63. And now the Chargers are 6-3, sitting in a very tough AFC West, obviously with the Chiefs and Broncos breathing down their neck, Chiefs of which who have the dark magic of Andy Reid and they're 9-0. But they're sitting respectable in a wild card spot right now. If they can just continue to win, continue to find ways to get it done, this is a playoff team, this is a wild card team, and they can make a stretch, they can make a push down the line, who knows. But Justin Herbert and those Chargers, they look legit on Sunday, and they are definitely putting themselves in a great spot to make the playoffs after some years of struggling. Moving on to Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. Speaking of years of struggling and being in a great spot, Kyler Murray exploded a historic performance. 266 yards to the ground, 266 yards to the air, 3 touchdowns, and get this, he is the first quarterback to rush for 2 touchdowns and have a completion percentage over 90% on 25 passes or more. An insane game. I believe he went 22 for 25, 266 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 of those coming on the ground. Just exploded, just like the rest of his team. When he was clicking, this whole team was clicking, this whole offense was clicking, the defense was going out there and pushing. They won 31-6 against this Aaron Rodgers-led Jets team. They made a statement. They played the game exactly how they needed to, and they went out and killed them. BTA, this team went out and just got a huge win. Props to Kyler Murray and the Cardinals for getting a win they needed to, and now they're sitting atop that NFC West. We talked earlier about how it's wide open. It truly is. They're sitting atop. They're only 6-4. Their record is not a 7-3. They're not an 8-2. They're 6-4. That's enough for anyone to overtake them. The Niners are right behind them. The Rams a little bit back. The Seahawks also a little bit back. But there's time for any of these teams to really make a push for that top spot. That's the division to watch heading down the line into the playoffs. Right now, Kyler Murray and the Cardinals hold on to that spot, and they might be able to hold on to it all the way through the playoffs. And what a comeback that would be for the Cardinals. But Kyler Murray, an insane performance, and another quarterback that had an insane performance. Jalen Hurts, 202 and 4 all-purpose touchdowns. Also getting it done with his legs. Just an insane routing of the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium. They have struggled at home. They have not won a single game. They're 0-5 in Jerry World right now. And it's looked bad every single week. They keep getting routed. I don't know what it is. Cooper Rush was the starting quarterback. Obviously, Dak is out for the season with a hamstring injury, and that's not going to help their concerns. They fall to a very, very rough, get this, ladies and gentlemen, the team that was just in the playoffs 12-5 last season is 3-6. 5 of those losses coming at home. They have not won a single game at home. All 3 of those wins are on the road. The Eagles jump up above the Commanders because of their loss to the Steelers to first place in the NFC East. They're 7-2. They're looking very, very good. They looked very compact. Their offense was clicking. Their defense was clicking. Everything was going for them in this game. They look like a complete unit. If they go out there and keep playing like that, there's really no team that could stop the Eagles. They look like they could make a push. The NFC is going to be very competitive heading down the line. The Lions, Commanders, the Eagles, the Niners are a team to not count out. The Vikings are a team to not count out. The Packers are a team to not count out. There's a lot of tough spread across the NFC. It's going to be interesting to see who goes out, who plays that well, who does what, who goes and grabs what spot, who matches up against who. There's not that much football left, but there's still enough for these teams to make pushes. Some teams are out for the count already. If you're 2 3 wins at this point, you're out for the count. But the NFC, we just talked about it. There seems to be great pairings in every division. Lions, Vikings in the north. Commanders, Eagles in the east. The Niners, Cardinals in the west. The Falcons, Bucks in the south. You just had these pairings, and it's going to come down to who comes out. It's going to be a similar situation to the AFC South last season. Very last week, Texans topple the Colts and win the division. We could see a couple of those situations happening in Week 17, Week 18 in these divisions. Every game matters, and for the Eagles to come out here and get a statement win that big just helps their odds even more. And speaking of a team that's number 1 in the NFC, the Detroit Lions, and they proved just why Sunday night. Coming out, and they got a big comeback win, down 23-7 at half. CJ Stroud was dealing. John Mechie had an insane game. Who is my highlight? John Mechie's my highlight for this game. 74 yards and a touchdown. Battled leukemia his rookie year 2 years ago. Absolute stud coming out of Bama, and it's so great to see him out there balling, doing his thing. We saw his karate celebration last night. We saw him come back in full effect. He was a big component of this offense. And Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions on the other sideline for the Lions. A career high, ties his career high with the Lions. 5 interceptions in a single game, and they still won. They still came back and won. He still threw for 240 yards. He still threw for 2 touchdowns. They still won the game. The Lions are 8-1, sitting atop the NFC. They just find ways to win. They're so physical. They're so well coached. They don't give up on games. They don't do things that they're not supposed to. They find ways to get it done. They're manned. They're disciplined, and they prove just why on Sunday night. Coming back, beating the Texans, and just doing it in very dramatic fashion. A game that I would like to see a rematch of in the Super Bowl. That would be such an interesting Super Bowl for me. Lions, Texans, 2 teams that deserve it. 2 teams that have never been. 2 teams that I would not mind seeing host that Lombardi Trophy at the end of the season. Let's make it happen. But the Lions put on a statement game against a very good team in primetime. Got it done. Did not show the ability to wander, to back down, to lay down and die. Came back, got it done, and got a huge win to advance to 8-1, sitting atop the NFC. And then you want to talk about battle of the mid. It's the 4 and 5 Rams versus the 2 and 6 Dolphins on prime time. Just wrapped up. If you don't know, I record these videos on Monday night. This game just got done with, and the Lions, not the Lions, I still got the Lions on my mind because that game was so much better than this game. The Dolphins actually came out and got a win. We won a football game. I believe it was 23-16, 23-15. Or was it 23? 23 something. Obviously, as a Dolphins fan, I love to see him win. At the same time, we were sitting with a top 6 draft pick going into this game in a draft with a lot of bad teams. There's a lot of bad teams in the league right now. A lot of teams bottom feeding right now, us included. So any really week that we go out and win, it's just killing our draft stock. Might trade back anyway, but there's a lot of studs I want. Will Campbell, a tackle in the draft that would require a lot of high-end value, picking probably in the top 5. That's a guy I'm really looking at. And to go out here and win this football game, try to take ourselves back a little bit. I know you never want to purposely lose football games, even though Brian Flores, the scandal and everything. But that's a whole different story. But I just don't want to ruin that draft pick as much as we do. It just seems like every time we're in such a great position to go get good value, to sneak up in the draft, sneak up on this top 5 pick, we just go and win a football game and throw ourselves back even more. Put ourselves in an awkward situation, picking at 11, 12, 13, which seems to be the common denominator every single year. But the Miami Dolphins won a football game tonight. The Rams lost a football game tonight. They did not look that good tonight at all. Neither team really did. Tyreek Hill scored his first touchdown since week 1. And it was just it was an all-right Monday Night Football game. Very sloppy, very all-around meh. But the Miami Dolphins finally found a way to get it done with a lot of their guys healthy. And that is all for the NFL Weekly Recap. It was an insane week. Again, Commanders fall to the Steelers, who are 7-2. Chiefs win off voodoo magic blocking a field goal. The Saints, after clogging the toilet, come out here and get their first win since week 2. A lot of teams got their bounce back. The Panthers bored Munich fans to sleep, and the Ravens barely edged the Bengals, who put on a ballistic performance. If you guys love the NFL, if you want more weekly recaps like this, make sure to like, subscribe to the Brogan Hillman Show, and we will have that going. But now, take a breath, get a drink, come back. It's the time you have all been waiting for. The college football playoffs. The first official Brogan Hillman college football playoff rankings, week 11. And we're going to start off here early. The number 1 unanimous pick. The Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Okay. Obviously, number 1 unanimous is the Oregon Ducks. There's no doubt about it. We're not going to spend too much time on Oregon. It's just obvious. Big wins. Ohio State, Boise State. They continue to roll. Illinois, Maryland. And they just look good doing it week after week. A very explosive offense. Gil and Gabriel right there in the Heisman voting, and they're looking good. Number 2, I have Texas here out of the SEC. And this is very, very interesting for me because this could change by next week. Week 12's rankings, if Tennessee can go out and beat Georgia this week, I would put Tennessee at that 2 spot. It's not going to matter too much in the regular season because if both teams win out, it will be Texas versus Tennessee in the SEC championship, and the winner of that obviously will get the auto bid. But for now, if Tennessee can go out and beat Georgia next week, I will have them in this number 2 spot. But Texas is one of 2 one-loss SEC teams with wins against Vandy, Oklahoma, and Michigan. Not too crazy of wins, and that's exactly why if Tennessee can go out and topple Georgia, that would be wins over Georgia, wins over Bama, wins over some other good opponents. But for now, it's Texas at this 2 spot in the SEC auto bid. And number 3 in the Big 12 auto bid is still undefeated, narrowly BYU. If BYU were to lose to Utah on Saturday, they won by 1, squeaked it out, down 14 at halftime, came back, did what they needed to do like a good team, showed perseverance, showed resilience, got the dub, won the game, saved themselves their auto bid in the Big 12. Will probably still end up in the Big 12 championship regardless of a loss, but they are sitting at that 3 spot only because they have defeated this number 4 team head to head, and that's the ACC auto bid right now in SMU. They're undefeated in the ACC. They deserve it over Miami. I think Miami plays too many close games. They let opponents stick in. They let Cal stick in, Virginia Tech stick in, Georgia Tech, who beat them, let some other teams, and they should not have played that close of games. SMU, undefeated in ACC play, their one loss being to BYU by a very close margin. SMU's a team that went out and they killed Pitt. They're a team that goes out and they beat Louisville, who beat Clemson. They have good statement wins in the ACC. It's just a weaker conference, so only one team is coming out from there. And right now, I think if SMU played Miami in that conference championship, which it's looking to line up that way, because I think Miami will get the auto bid in the conference championship over Clemson, because Miami beat Louisville handily and Clemson lost to Louisville in that ACC, so Miami would get the tiebreaker. I think SMU, if Miami plays the way they've been playing all season, and that's sloppy, letting teams stick in the games, SMU's going to make them pay, and they're going to get this auto bid in a victory over Miami. But if Miami can play to their potential and just ice out SMU, it's their auto bid for the taking. So it comes down to how they play in that conference championship, my ideal conference championship there in the ACC. Getting to these at-large bids. Number 5 is no surprise. It's Ohio State. Ohio State is a team that has one loss in that Big Ten. And their one loss is to Oregon, the unanimous number 1 by 1. They played a great game. They stuck in there the whole game. It was close. It was back and forth. Also have a big statement win against Penn State, beat Purdue, Nebraska, some other names. Ohio State's the unanimous 5 at-large bid. They're the best at-large bid in the country right now, and we all know that. Number 6, Rocky Top, Tennessee. UTK, a team that I started off a little low when I was making this list, and they worked their way up. I just kept realizing they're a one-loss SEC team with wins over Bama, Florida, Kentucky, who beat Ole Miss. I mean, Kentucky's a team that's been giving people trouble. Tennessee is a team that has statement wins. Their one loss is to Arkansas by 6, a sloppy loss, one that they dropped. And a couple teams have done that in the SEC this year. Bama dropped a sloppy loss. Ole Miss dropped a sloppy loss. There's just teams that just drop these sloppy losses, but that doesn't mean they can't bounce back. Tennessee's a prime example of this. They've been heating up. They've been killing their opponents recently. And now they're the number 6 one-loss SEC team right here in this at-large bid over an undefeated Indiana, over a one-loss Penn State, over a one-loss Notre Dame. I have Tennessee at the 6th spot just because they're such a talented SEC squad. They're getting hot, they're rolling, and I believe they could beat anyone below them on this list. Number 7, undefeated Indiana. Balling in the Big Ten. Absolutely amazing under Coach Cignetti. Transfer, I know all too well about Coach Cignetti. Transferred from James Madison, a team that tormented my Chants. They tormented them this year as well, but that's a whole nother story. Coach Cignetti is a winner. He said it himself. He said Google him. So Google him. Coach Cignetti is a winner. He's absolutely right. He's undefeated in the Big Ten. If they can go out and beat Ohio State in 2 weeks, we're talking a whole different ranking system. My rankings in 2 weeks could be insane if Indiana can do the unthinkable. But for now, they just haven't really had too many statement wins. I'll take one-loss Tennessee over an undefeated Big Ten Indiana any day. Tennessee has played competition. They played Bama. They played Florida. They played Kentucky. Indiana, their best wins, USC. They played Illinois, who's been getting battered recently. Played Washington, who's nothing special this year at all. So they've had a little bit more of a cupcake schedule. I know they don't make their schedule, so I don't want to punish them too much. That's why they're at 7, but I do believe Tennessee would clobber Indiana if they played right now. And a one-loss SEC team to me is a lot more valuable than an undefeated Big Ten team that has not played any opponents at all. So that is why I have Indiana at 7, sitting behind Tennessee. Right behind Indiana, at number 8, is another Big Ten school in Penn State. A one loss to Ohio State by 7. Not a bad loss. It was a close game. Stuck in there for a little bit. Ohio State really controlled the game. But Penn State stayed in there. They played all right. They did enough to sort of say, okay, they're not terrible. And they're only a one-loss Big Ten school. They still deserve to float around. They still deserve to be here. And barring any big losses, they're pretty much locked. They just have to win out. They'll secure a mid spot in this playoff, and For me, they're number 8 above a 1-win independent in Notre Dame, who comes in at number 9 for me. Besides from dropping a loss to Northern Illinois by 2, they've really played very solid. They come out here, they just battered in FSU by 1,000,000. Obviously, FSU is a team that struggled, but they also came out here and beat Texas A&M, a 2-loss SEC school that still has hopes. They would have to have a lot of things go their way for Texas A&M to even be considered being in this college football playoff, but they did go out and they beat them pretty handily. Also beat Louisville, who gave Clemson trouble. Louisville, who gave Miami trouble as well. They came out and got a big win against them. So Notre Dame sitting exactly where they need to be right here at this number 9 spot in the college football playoff. If it wasn't for that one dropped loss against Northern Illinois, who knows how high they could be up on this list, but that one loss is holding them back a little bit. And the common theme seems to be some sloppy losses here. So Notre Dame sitting at number 9. Number 10 and number 11 for me sort of come as a twin package. They're in the same exact boat. They are 2-loss SEC schools, both that faced elimination games last Saturday and both that showed up and played huge games, got it done, and showed exactly why they deserve to still be in this college football playoff contention. Number 10, Alabama. Number 11, Ole Miss. Alabama faced an elimination game against LSU, Jalen Milroe played the game of his life, went absolutely absurd, dropped 40-something on LSU, eliminated them from contention completely. They're now a 3-loss team. They're out completely. Alabama still alive in this 10 spot for me, and Ole Miss did the same exact thing, facing an elimination game against a Georgia squad who's very talented, wins over Texas, wins over some other programs. They come out here and they beat Georgia as well, and that's the reason Georgia is not on this list. It's because Alabama holds a tiebreaker. Ole Miss now holds that tiebreaker. They're all 3 2-loss SEC teams, but Georgia's just, their 2 losses just happen to be the tiebreakers right over them. The other 2-loss teams, you can't do that. These twin brothers are holding them down, holding their head underwater. Georgia's not able to breathe unless they come out here and get a win against UTK, who's sitting at number 6 this week. This is what we're saying. These last 3 weeks of college football are going to be insane. There's so many storylines to track. There's so much going on. So make sure you subscribe to the Brogan Hillman Show. I'll try to deliver all the information to you as best as I can. If Georgia can go out and beat Tennessee next week, this, I'm just telling you now, is going to be mayhem within the SEC at large bids, within everything, within the conference championship even, because UTK is sitting in a prime spot to make that conference championship. Who knows who could push up there? Maybe Bama gets pushed into the conference championship. Maybe that's what Texas A&M needs. Who knows? But for now, Bama and Ole Miss stack 10 and 11 to round out the at-large bids. And the G5, number 12, we didn't forget about your Boise State. Right now, they're the unanimous group of 5 team. No one's touching them. They have big losses. They have a singular loss, should be undefeated. Lost to Oregon, the unanimous one, by 3. They put up 31 points on Oregon. They stuck with them the whole game. They looked very good doing it. And also a win against UNLV. And another win against Washington State, who's a ranked opponent. Number, I believe, 17, 16 in the country. They dished them their only loss this season pretty handily. Boise State, obviously, Ashton Jeanty, Heisman finalist, Heisman hopeful. They're in a beautiful spot to win that G5. They went out, they're in easily. No one's really going to give them trouble. They don't face anyone really too crazy. San Jose State this week, they're not going to see any competition here on out. They're going to win out. They should win the Mountain West pretty handily as well. They should secure their playoff spot. They're probably the biggest lock on this list besides from Oregon. And Boise State is looking very good in that G5 bid. So this rounds out my top 12 as of week 11. If they were to all play right now in a format, it would be Oregon bye, Texas bye, BYU bye, SMU bye, SMU. Very proud of that team, a team I'm very high on. First round would see Ohio State, Boise State. Wow, an insane game. Big Ten, Mountain West, Boise State versus Ohio State. I'm not saying Boise State could come out and they could pull something off for sure. One of the best offenses in the country. When they click, they click. You have to account for Ashton Jeanty. Then you let Maddox throw all over the field for you, stretch vertically, do all these things. Very versatile, very dynamic offense in Boise State. That could be a troubled matchup for the Buckeyes. Then heading down, UTK versus Ole Miss, SEC matchup in the first round. That would be a big matchup. Nico Alamayava. Then you have Jackson Dart. Two great SEC quarterbacks going head to head. Then you flip the script. Indiana, an undefeated Indiana, Coach Cignetti versus Alabama, first-year head coach at Alabama, Kalen DeBoer. That would be a great game, Big Ten SEC matchup. You flip the script again, a Penn State Notre Dame matchup. That would be a great matchup. Just so many possibilities for so many things to unfold within these past couple weeks of college football. And it's going to be insane. It's going to be madness. So make sure you tune in. Again, make sure you subscribe, you follow whatever platform you're watching this clip on right now. Subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do to track the college football landscape. It's going to be insane. I love you all very, very much. Thank you for tuning in. Once again, the last glance over the rankings. Oregon 1, Texas 2, BYU 3, SMU 4. At-large bids, Ohio State 5, Tennessee 6, Indiana 7, Penn State 8, Notre Dame 9, Alabama 10, Ole Miss 11, and Boise State 12. Again, I love you all very, very much. Make sure to keep God number one. I love you all. Make sure to like, subscribe. It's been Brogan Hillman, and I'm out.